Don't start with $100,000 or $200,000. I mean, start up to 10,000, let's say max.
Yeah.
And then from there, once you build up, once you start building your experience, and once you start, gaining some exposure to the real world, because you're going to face some challenges. You're going to, face some angry customers, some chargebacks, and all of that. Once you get that exposure of the real world, once you start gaining that experience, then you can, and once you start, most importantly, once you start making profit, then you can reinvest the capital into the new sort of ventures that are more expensive. But to start with, like I said, just don't want to repeat myself, but work on the mindset that it's not a, get rich quick type of scheme where you can just sit back and do nothing and the money just going to flow into your bank account.
Hello and welcome to Humans of Flippa, where we talk to the real-life buyers and sellers of digital assets. Today's guest in Humans of Flippa is part of an elite group, and they're known as super sellers. Buragas is a super seller because he's received 100% positive feedback and only works with high-quality assets. Also, in just 5 short years, Buragas has hit 60 transactions totaling over $120,000. So, what is Al's secret? In today's Humans of Flippa, you'll find out all that and more as Al joins me from his home country of Lithuania. Al, thank you so much for joining me on Humans of Flippa.
Pleasure to be here.
How do you describe what you do? Would you say you're a business broker or an online entrepreneur? How would you describe it?
I was thinking about that actually, but I think it's a bit of everything. I mean, to be honest, if you want to be an online entrepreneur, you've got to be a bit of a business person as well, right? So, I mean, in order to be successful in online space, you've got to have some sort of, business knowledge. So I'd probably say I'm a mixture of both. I mean, I've started as, doing sort of physical little businesses offside, when I was a teenager, and then sort of it progressed to, online sort of space, and then, kind of a mixed with the entrepreneurship. And, that's, I think it's, to be successful online, you've got to have a bit of both.
Yeah. So it's something you've been doing for quite a while then you just translated that sort of skill set into the online world.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, I remember probably I was about 5 or 6 or something, and I was hanging around with a few local kids in the yard, and one of them mentioned that he goes fishing a lot with his father, and I thought, what, I've got to offer something to him, and kind of went inside and I kind of made a little fishing float, and I sold it to him for like 10 cents, and that was probably my first transaction as an entrepreneur. Obviously that was not online, it was 95 or 92, but you still, that was a good start, I think, into my kind of a journey where I am today.
Yeah, amazing. I love that you started so young and you just obviously caught the bug.
Yeah.
But what is it about business and business broking and entrepreneurship that attracts you to this sort of career?
To be honest, I think that the key here is probably the freedom. I mean, I did the whole 9 to 5 thing. I was working in banking in London, and everything was fine, and the from finance point of view, and from the workplace environment, everything was great. But the fact that I had to go, every morning, I had to take the same train, go to the same place, do the same thing all over again. It was just killing me slowly. So I thought, I've got to do something else, and that's kind of the freedom, the ability to actually plan my own time, do what I want to do at any time. That was the key thing here.
That seems to be the consistent theme when I chat to people on Humans of Flippa, is that you can really do whatever you want. And I'm almost tempted to get into it because I've been chatting to so many people, getting all the intel. So I'll have to tell my boss that I'll just quit. I've been tempted.
Careful with that.
Hopefully he's not watching. You've reached super seller status on Flippa, so congrats on that.
Thank you very much.
That means you've got 100% positive feedback on all your transactions. How do you go about achieving that and then maintaining that status?
Of course. I mean, so the key part here is I always go that extra mile to make sure that my customers, my buyers are happy. So it all starts, I think, with the listing itself. I mean, I try to when I write the description or the sales pitch, I'm trying to add as much information and as many details as possible, so that the buyers can expect know exactly what they're trying to get into. And then obviously the next step is the first initial kind of a message from the buyer. I try to exclusively cover every single detail they've answer every single question they've asked in detail. And then I go through every single, sort of, if there's any obstacles, you can reach out to me, you can contact me. I'm always here to help. And then obviously we move on to the transfer process. I'm always, trying to make that as smooth and as easy as possible for the buyer, so that they can, without having to worry about, any sort of problems with the transfer, they can just concentrate on the new business they've just acquired, and they can concentrate on selling and, sort of move from there. And then obviously post sale support, I'm always there for them and I always, tell that to the buyers. I'm always here to help you for as long as you need to, to feel comfortable. So that's kind of probably that kind of makes me, one of the, few, I guess, selected sellers on Flippa that allow, I don't set a limit of post-sale support to my buyers. And and people appreciate that, and they come back, and they buy more. So that's that's what kind of helps me maintain that status.
Yeah. Do you find a lot of people are coming into it quite new, quite green, and they're leaning on you for that support initially before they get up and running, or are most people that are buying from you a little more established?
Because I sell mostly, assets up to $10,000. So most of the people that I deal with, I'd probably say about 60 or 70%, they're mostly sort of trying to get into the business.
Yeah.
And that's where my profile and my experience kind of kicks in, because I've been through all that journey. I've done that, all of that. I went through the same sort of steps and everything. And I know exactly what to provide and offer them to be able to, make sure that they end up being successful online.
Yeah. I also noticed some of your recent listings are more so on the app side rather than e-commerce. Is there a reason for that? Is there a new trend forming that we don't know about?
But again, bit of both, I guess, because I sort of got a couple of good mates here that are actually great, app developers. They just don't have the capacity to actually sell those assets. So we kind of joined forces, started collaborating, and we thought, why not give it a go? And if we look at Flippa, the marketplace itself, and you see that when it comes to the websites, domains and everything else, you've got thousands and thousands of listings. But for app space, I mean, the competition, the quality of the assets being offered is a lot smaller. So we thought, why don't we just give it a go and see how it goes? And so far, so good. I mean, we've probably sold about 5 apps so far, and we sort of offer, again, I wouldn't sell anything that I wouldn't buy myself. I always say that. So we always try to stand out when it comes to quality and everything we offer. So that's that's the kind of the idea that we had, and so far so good.
Is there much of a difference between flipping an app compared to an e-commerce site?
I guess, Brad, to be honest, I think when it comes to apps, it's more experienced people are in that market, because obviously, to get started with apps, you've got to have like, the Google developer account, and you've got to have an idea what you're doing. And when e-commerce, it's a bit simpler, because obviously it's one of the sort of oldest businesses in the world, just buying and selling, right? And with apps, obviously you've got to concentrate on marketing and and making sure the algorithm on Google Play Store kind of bumps it up high in the charts and everything. So it's a bit. So I guess if you compare the e-commerce and the apps, I think apps is a bit slightly more experienced people than e-commerce.
So you've done quite a lot of flipping with both, obviously, and across different sort of businesses. What are the key things you do to get that business ready for sale?
When it comes to e-commerce, the main thing I do is make sure that the store is functional. As we know that in 2021 there's loads of e-commerce stores, loads of drop shipping stores and everything, and to be successful in these times, you've got to be you've got to stand out in a way. So you've got to make sure that the store looks great, and most importantly, you've got to make sure that the store is 100% functional. So not only the speed, but the way that the buyers can end up buying the product, as in you don't have to scroll through hundreds of pages, or even even if it's 5 clicks, then some buyers will drop off. So you've got to make sure that it's so it's very the flow, it's so smooth that the buyer comes in, literally clicks one button, and he's ready to buy. So I when I invest into these stores, when I buy these stores to sell them on Flippa, then I look at the product itself. I look at the the kind of the prospect and then the potential of the product, and then I look at the store, what I can do to improve. And most of the stores I buy are pretty basic, even though they've done pretty good results. That kind of tells me that the product is great, the idea is great. It just needs a bit of work when it comes to design and functionality. So I improve that, and then kind of take it to the next level and, pass it on to the next, owner on Flippa.
So you're more or less putting yourself in the mind of someone that would use that business. And
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Functionality. Yeah, interesting. So what's the future for you with your current portfolio? You're just sort of chilling, just got a little plateau, or are we building? What's the future for Al?
Oh, growing. I mean, I've got before, probably I'd say, so I've got I think $130,000 at the moment. So if probably in the next couple of years, I plan to reach next to probably near to 500,000, something like that. So, I'm definitely here for you guys for Flippa. I'm definitely here for the buyers, and I'm definitely here to, grow my business and take it from there.
Obviously now you've got that freedom, like you mentioned earlier. How much has Flippa impacted your life and influenced your career and how you go about living the dream?
Oh, a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. It's just because when I started developing like a little blog, and then obviously, as you know, with organic traffic, it takes time to generate income and all of that. So I then, randomly, I knew about Flippa, but I never used it 5 or 6 years ago. So I kind of just started looking on Flippa, just see if I can buy something that is sort of ready and ready to go and start making money. So I purchased this one little drop shipping store, and I sort of it went really well, sold loads of goods on there, and then I sold it on the same marketplace, Flippa. And I thought, you know what, that's a platform that I want to be a part of, because obviously, if it's I dealt with a great seller. I bought, he was really helpful. He helped me a lot. And then, the buyer was great as well. No problems at all. And I thought that's an amazing platform to be a part of. And then I started, building my profile from there. And then, 5 years later down the line, we're here. So yeah, that's been a huge part of my success.
Oh, it's amazing that in 5 years you've had this much freedom and this much growth, where in a traditional career, you're probably only getting one promotion in 5 years, or maybe two promotions. And the study that goes into it and the research, it seems like such a lucrative option to go down the Flippa pathway. And like I said, I'm super tempted. The more I talk, the more I think I tend to get some cash together and do it. But if someone was in my position and they were thinking about it, they were kind of towing the line, what are some key points of advice that you would give to someone that wanted to follow in your footsteps?
The first thing I'd say is you need to work on the mindset itself in your head, that it's not as easy as it might sound. I mean, it takes time and work. And loads of people, I'm not talking about Flippa, loads of people on, in real life that I meet, and I tell them what I do, and, and they say, like, oh, it's easy, and online, you just sit in front of your computer and that's it. It's not just that. I'm not just sitting in front of my computer. I mean, the key here is to set your mindset that it's not a, sort of get rich quick scheme type of thing. It takes dedication and work. So that's the first thing that you need to kind of start working on. And then next thing is kind of do a lot of research. Do a lot of research about drop shipping itself, or whatever you want to invest in, and then digital marketing and everything else. And then start. Don't start with $100,000 or $200,000. I mean, start up to 10,000, I'd say, max.
Yeah.
And then from there, once you build up, once you start building your experience, and once you start, gaining some exposure to the real world, because you're going to face some challenges, you're going to, face some angry customers, some chargebacks, and all of that. Once you get that exposure of the real world, once you start gaining that experience, then you can, and once you start, most importantly, once you start making profit, then you can reinvest the capital into the new sort of ventures that are more expensive. But to start with, like I said, just don't want to repeat myself, but work on the mindset that it's not a get rich quick type of scheme where you can just sit back and do nothing and the money just going to flow into your bank account.
Doing the work is probably my weakness. I want to get rich quick. I have to admit, I just want the cash.
We all do, but once you put the work in, then when it's going to happen, then you're going to start picking all those sweet fruit from the trees. But at the start, you've got to understand that it's going to take a bit of your time and some sleepless nights perhaps to get it going.
Fantastic. Well, it's excellent advice. You've obviously got such a wealth of experience, and you've done well. You're a super seller. You've got the stats to back it up, and I really appreciate your time today. It's been really insightful.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure. I mean, and when you sent me that email, I was really excited to be here, and I didn't know whether we're going to be able to manage that because of the time difference, obviously, because
Yeah.
it's lovely morning here. But obviously, for you, probably you're just going to head out for a few drinks afterwards. But yeah,
Yeah, no, definitely.
great start of the day for me here, and yeah, I mean, hopefully we can catch up soon.